Hello, everyone. My name is Padmini Nidamolu, and I'm the co-founder of Lean and Agile for Women. And this video is a part of the initiative under Lean and Agile called Lean and Agile 100 or LIA100, where we are trying to bring 100 inspirational, influential, and thought leaders among the women we have in this great community, and bring their stories, their journeys to the community so we all can learn from each other, get inspired by, and even possibly reach out to the person that resonates most with you. So it's a very humble effort to kind of, make that happen. Today, I'm super thrilled to introduce you to a leader who truly believes in leading with humility and authenticity, and most importantly, transparency. She strongly believes that servant leadership is a habit of choice. And what I was very inspired and impressed with was her conviction that creating diversity in the talent pool of the organization that she is in is not an option, but it's an executive mandate. And I really love that. She's currently the vice president in IBM, leading a program called Accelerate Agile at IBM. And this is the process of transforming IBM's total workforce of 400,000 employees as a target to new ways of working by applying our own Agile frameworks and methodologies. And she's actually embarking on a huge transformation journey. And I took a minute to even process that number and that magnitude. And I made a note here, between North America and Europe, she's embarking on a journey to stand up 3,000 squads, which is just beyond phenomenal. She's none other than Nanci Taylor from IBM, and please join me in welcoming Nanci Taylor to this interview. Nanci, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks, Padmina. I'm delighted to be here.
Awesome. So I really want to dive right away because I have so many things to ask you and learn from you. So one of the things that I consider myself fortunate was that I was in the audience during the Business Agility Conference in 2018, where you spoke about the transformation, and your metaphor was a caterpillar to a butterfly, because how impactful that transformation and the metaphor was for you. One thing that you mentioned really stood out for me. You said several organizations simply check the box off that they're agile and that they have quote unquote transformed, right? So why this pressure in the organizations, and how can the organizations, small or large, take the path of genuine transformation so they can sustain the transformation, if you will?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I think one of the things that the organizations need to focus on is why. I don't believe that it fits everyone, and you have to start with the why and your reason for wanting to transform your organization. And so this pressure to check the box, I think, is twofold. There may be some external noise, influence, messaging coming from outside in,
right,
putting a pressure on the team to, you must go agile, you must implement agile, to someone potentially doing it inside the organization and saying, these are my great outcomes, you too should do it, and this is how fast you should go about doing it. And I think that's where that comes from.
Yeah. And how do you think the change agents or leaders like you can influence that? Because that's a barrier, it's very hard to break.
It is. I think you can be genuine to it, but I also think if you practice Shuharvi, you can adapt to it. So I do believe there are elements of agile practices that you can take, you can mold to your organization, and you can implement things that work well for you. But choose which path you're going to go down and make that be authentic, not something where you're trying to take all of the agile practices, no matter what methodology you use, and really force that on people. Try some things, find what works, and in the end, you can fit it to your organization. But I do think that people don't take the time to try and adjust.
Right.
They just want to take something off the shelf and do it.
Yeah. So, Nanci, you've been engaged and you've been leading transformation at scale, right? This is huge, what you've been doing. And I would really like to know, over the past 5 years or so, in your experience, you've seen many transformations at all levels. What are some of the trends, if you could share, in the agile world, in lean world, that have changed for good or transformed for worse? What are the trends that you observed?
I mean, I think I do see one of the good pieces happening is that people are more open to the adaptability of taking those methods and applying them. I do think there's still a level of misunderstanding, even though Agile's been around for a very long time, of at the heart of it, what is Agile and what does it mean to the organization? And there are numerous articles written on it. There's different ways to do it. And I think what's coming out of this is sort of this bifurcated view of Agile can only be this or it can only be that. And I do worry that stories are coming out and more pressure is being put on the structure of Agile and the right way to do it. And if you don't do it this way, therefore you're not Agile.
Right.
And I think the more stories that come out about this adaptability of Agile methodologies, maybe a combination of a little bit of, Scrum, a little bit of Lean, a little bit of Kanban, I think there's an opportunity to continue to work on as we progress in our markets, in the businesses that we're in the sectors, as we share our experiences. There will be new permutations of Agile that happen for the good. And I think I'm excited by that because we can help redefine as we go forward the implementation of this. But at the heart, staying very true to Agile practices, at the very heart of why Agile started, I think if you get grounded in that, clarity of purpose for your teams, focusing first on your clients, getting that closed loop feedback, I think those are just the core basics, regardless of how you implement it. Yeah. That's good. And I think that good is going to sustain itself as we go forward. There might be different things that grow out of it. But I think that's what I'm seeing and hoping to be able to contribute to and to build going forward.
Okay, that's pretty profound. So talking about the scale of transformation and the number of people involved, number of squads involved, it's pretty intense. It's dense in terms of numbers. And often we don't have the luxury of time to transform it at our own pace, the pace that we like to. So when you're hitting the target of transforming, as you said, 100,000 people is what you're looking at. What are some of the biases or challenges which hit you hard usually? And how do you kind of maneuver through them to make at least, some progress initially?
Oh, that's a great question. I think the biggest bias we're challenged with is the word transformation.
Yeah.
It's been around for a long time, and we have labeled over the years large transformation programs. And some may or may not be long-term, some may be short-term, but largely when you think of transformational programs, you associate them with waterfall, multiple year implementations of systems, ERP, CRM, etc. And I think people are fatigued. I think we're at a point in most organizations where the maturity level of being able to consume, understand, adopt, and deploy large transformations is daunting. And people are just dealing with this fatigue. So what we're trying to do is break it down to do a couple of things. Not overuse the word Agile. We don't lead with that. Mm-hmm. Not call it a transformation project. Again, new ways of working comes up, but we've been talking about new ways of working now for a while. Is it still new? It's different ways of working.
Yeah.
It's how do you really get grounded again in this notion of what is your purpose, your clarity of purpose? Why are you here? What are you trying to do? And so getting this large team sort of coalesced around a set of messages that start with our clients deserve better. And we should be on this continuous improvement journey. So how do we use this as an opportunity to reorganize our thoughts, starting first with the client, really using a critical eye of disrupting the status quo and improving that as we go. You don't have to improve it all on day one. You start small and then you improve it as you go. And certainly you're going to learn as you get feedback from them on whether or not it's making a difference. And so I'm taking this large number of teams and breaking it down, thinking, what will the impact of one or two teams have? Because most of the teams will scale to be probably between 8 and 10 types of squads. But if you start with a few and break it down and think about, what can I learn from the first implementation that I can quickly then change, but for the good? And we know we're not going to get it right. So for us, it's staying largely away from the word transformation.
Okay.
I get asked that all the time. When will we start? When will we stop? What are the big milestones? Where's the project plan? It's a huge cultural barrier that we have to overcome, because for years, people have been taught to work this way. You're taking on this large transformation. You hire a project manager. Maybe you set up a PMO. You move through the course of this with having all of these large, very large meetings, rag charts, red, yellow, green, action items galore. And I think people are just tired of that.
Tired, yeah.
And so teaching them this new way requires that you have to unlearn that way of working, learn this new way of working. And what we're finding largely is people are finding it hard to process activities in 2-week time periods, right? So we're breaking it down into sprints, and they're saying, but what happens after this? Tell me what happens after this. They're trying to plan continuously ahead. And so I do think that's one of the largest barriers we have to overcome, is not only teaching them this new way to work,
right,
but showing them that there is no end. You're going to continue to work this way. So I would say it's that. And then the on the cultural side with leadership, you know, we've largely been, as most organizations have, grown up in a very hierarchical fashion. So teaching the leadership first this way of working and getting them to accept, you won't see a project plan with milestones and a rag chart. You're not going to get that. What you will get is, you will get shorter time to value by seeing the progress we're making on a more regular basis, right? And then having the opportunity to give us your feedback, inform us as to whether or not we're staying on the path. Maybe you might have some bright ideas you want to come up with, or maybe we're just off course completely and you want to give us that course correction. They don't know how to work that way either, right? So I'm teaching from the top down and from the bottom up. And it's when they realize some of the great things happening on the bottom that they begin to catch on.
Yeah.
And we'll use those leaders as our change advocates. And when the teams on the bottom can see that there's interest from the leaders on the top, that's when you begin to close that gap. Yeah. And great things happen when that starts.
Absolutely. And you mentioned about the leadership space, and that was, my next question, in fact, and I'm so glad you kind of, touched on it. So it's pretty hard to kind of have that leadership agility, because that space is often, has the identity crisis, right? The teams are, kind of doing their thing, and there is a bigger sense of purpose, but then what am I doing? What is my purpose and role? And I bet you must have encountered resistance and challenges in transforming the leadership space specifically, more so than the teams. What are some of the thoughts or your perspectives about how can the leadership be transformed? Because that's where the most challenges lie.
Yeah, I think leadership for me is you first have to want to change. And when you quickly get the leaders together, you have to do a very quick assessment just based on the conversation, the tone of the conversation, their engagement in the conversation, a quick assessment of whether or not leaders have an appetite for change.
Right.
And then gravitate to where you find the energy. So leaders will give you indication of whether or not they're just listening, or whether or not they're actually engaging to learn more and understand what their role might be, or what actions they might take before the journey starts. And so I tend to go where the energy is, build off of the energy. And before you know it, you've got a sort of this movement on the leadership side where those left behind will quickly learn, if I don't move, I might be left behind.
Right.
And so it is one of my personal passions to really help leaders understand that there's a better way to lead, and that breaking it down and becoming a master of your craft means you have to get closer to your people. Where leaders today believe that their role for a large part is having a large group of people underneath them that go out and collect information from the people who actually do the work, assemble an update of the work that's being done and the potential outcomes that are coming from that work. And they've become very disconnected to the work that is done, to the people doing the work, and frankly, to the clients who are the end users of the work that we deliver. And so teaching them to get closer first, come on the ground, walk the floor. There's so few people use Gemba walks. I mean, that's a simple thing to teach them to do. The first challenge is extracting them out of the day-to-day, the calendar that they have, but get them to carve some time out and actually come and see the work. Then they can realize why people are beginning to feel empowered to question why we do the things we do, and contribute ideas on how we can make that work better. So I think if I can grab them and show them first, I look for the energy, identify them, bring them down, show them, that builds on the energy, but then to try to get them to become an advocate and just pick 2 other people they can spread this to, it then becomes a method of scale. It's not easy.
Right.
It's
By
not easy with all the business pressure around you to get leaders to carve out that time.
Yeah.
But when you find them, they become infected with the passion they can see from the teams on the ground. And it helps give them energy to get up every day and continue to lead in, to learn, and to change themselves.
Yeah, that's a true leadership agility that most organizations aspire for.
Yes.
Awesome. I would like to touch on probably a different dimension here a little bit with you, Nanci. So you're a woman leader, who's doing phenomenal things. And typically for women, we handle multiple things, right? We have family, we have, other pressures, both professional and personal. And when it comes to leading, when it comes to just claiming that space, that next step in your career, there's often a lot of internal dialogue that we experience, a lot of internal conflict, apprehension, self-doubt. And most of us, don't take the first step, forget about the next few steps, right? Because we kind of tend to be in our comfort zone, our own cocoon, which is safe. And if you can really go back, several years, or, whenever that step was for you, when it was offered to you or when you claimed it, what was your internal dialogue like? And how did you just, talk to yourself? And how did you just, take that first step?
Wow. That's a really profound question. I think for me, when this opportunity came up, it came up in early 2016. So I've been at it just 3 years now. But when it originally came up, my internal dialogue was, run like hell. Don't go there. Don't go there.
Sure. Yeah.
Because the processing I was doing was along the lines of very much like a project plan.
Right.
How long will this take? Can I really do this? I believed in it. I absolutely believed in it. I had done it with my own small team. But when you're confronted with, take it from here and scale it to the next level and then even larger, there's a lot of processing that goes on that says, I understand the company I work for. I understand the structure. I understand the culture. I understand the challenges. Is this really what's going to bring me personal satisfaction? Is it really what's going to bring me professional satisfaction? is it something that I'm going to be inspired by and jump out of bed every day to go do? And that internal dialogue was sort of a pro and con kind of conversation, right? These are the pros. A, it's never been done before. You could be a first of a kind.
Right.
That's a good thing. B, wow, it's massive, daunting, so many personalities, so many layers. Do you really want to do this? And so it was that kind of internal dialogue that I went back and forth on. Dedication, satisfaction, but at the end of the day, I think where I settled on this was, if I have the opportunity to change just a small part of our business and the way we work and inspire people to come up with even better ideas than we ever imagined by implementing this type of working, then it would be a really good story to tell. And so I began from building with the little that I did, saying, sure, why not? Let's go to the next level. Again, still in my mind, negotiating. If it doesn't work out, there's always something else I can go do.
Right.
But along the way, really reminding myself that I don't know it all. And there's a lot to learn, not only from working around in an Agile organization, methodologies for sure, but more importantly, I was going to get a window into other parts of this really great company that I work for.
Right.
And I wouldn't have had that opportunity if I didn't take this step. So for me, it became this internal dialogue that said, you're going to do good things, even if parts of it don't work. You will leave a mark on parts of those organizations. More importantly, you're going to learn so much more about this great company that you work for, which is going to then open your mind even more about the possibilities of where you want to continue your journey. So for sure, for me, this isn't the end point.
Yeah.
I can see all around me such incredible parts of our business that I want to now be a part of, that I think I have more opportunities now to not only change the direction I'm in, but maybe do something even brand new. I've acquired a level of confidence along the way that said, instead of saying, I don't think I can do that because I don't have the experience, it's, I want to do that. What do I need to learn in order to do that? Right. So I think that's where the turning point for me was. It's a company for us. Our company has been in the process of reinvention. So for me, it's about personal reinvention. And it's great to have that conversation now to say, what do you want to be when you grow up? Because I still don't think I know, and I still don't think I'm grown up yet. So
no, that's always a great self-dialogue. And I really caught up on two things you said. You don't have to know it all to sign up for something. But I think the attitude should be, I want to do it. I can do it, knowing that there will be a lot of learnings on the way. So you don't have to know it all to sign up for something. That's just so profound. That's just so profound. Thanks for sharing that. It's something that you just said about the layers of the organization that you're exposed to. And then you've always said that you believe in building in diversity in the talent pool to kind of bring out the best in transformations and best in the organizations. And in your experience so far, Nanci, you might have been involved in many hiring decisions and many organizational structure decisions. What does diversity or gender balance mean to you? And why should we have it? Because it's not a point of consideration very commonly for most organizations when they're making hiring choices. Why should we have gender balance, and why diversity, and lack thereof, what does it impact?
Another great question, and it's one that's near and dear to my heart. I'm an active advocate in diversity and inclusion across our company. And I think what opens your mind, and an easy way to have that conversation in the company and across some of those levels, is using the very concept of Agile. When you talk about cross-functional teams, I lead with diversity of thought Cross-functional teams, yes, they bring different skills, different experiences. And if you lead the conversation with diversity of thought, diversity of experience, diversity of background, that builds a better team. And in fact, that diversity of the team is more representative of the clients we serve.
Yeah.
Therefore, you'll get higher value faster by having that diverse team. If you take that theme then and build it across the organization, and oftentimes I use it from the outside in, if you look at the world we live in today and how we act, and often if you look around, just even when you're traveling, you can see the level of diversity around you. And I oftentimes hear 5, 6 different languages depending on what train station or airport I'm in. And it gives you a moment to pause and reflect. This is exactly the kind of diversity and inclusion I think we need internally in our organizations to fully represent the types of clients that we serve, the types of work that we do, and the types of skills that we have. And for the teams on the ground, when I talk to them about this, it's leading with, I may not agree with you, but I absolutely respect the experience and the opinion that you have. And together, if we work through that, we will find a common solution that for sure will be much better together than we are if we have our individual thoughts and we kind of clash with each other. So we talk about it. We huge passion across the organization and the company that I'm in for this, but bringing it down to the level of what we're trying to do, we're talking about it not being so direct, but being indirect, but having a direct impact and a direct outcome that says, if I put these kinds of people together, it'll be a more significant outcome on the other end, and breaking the barrier of, it's a cultural thing, right? I can see it in our selection where teams have the ability to self-select. They'll go with people who think like them, people who might look like them, people who might work like them, have a same background. If you take that away, especially in the leader space, we're moving more towards science-based selection. So I've got the ability to go through a level of assessment using science-based. It takes away that bias that exists there if I give the freedom of self-selection and moving more towards, this is what good, diverse teams look like through a number of lenses. So it is important, very passionate about it. It's a continuing conversation that we have. I'm so proud of how far the company has come and the things that we're doing in this space. But blending it into everything we do every day in standing up our squads absolutely starts with that diversity of thought and experience.
Yeah. And I think most companies are wanting to move and trend towards the direction, but all the challenges that you mentioned are very common across the organizations. Thanks for sharing those thoughts. So as we are wrapping up, Nanci, you might have had encountered tons of learning resources in your experience. It could be books, authors, role models. If you could recommend, a book or a podcast, videocast, whatever it is, what would that be?
You
have something right there.
It's called The Technology Fallacy. I'm not quite done yet, but I do some podcasts. I do them when I'm on the train, read a lot of books. In fact, my team started a book of the month club. We aspire to be like Oprah, and we're not quite there yet. And they do select and recommend different books, but this is a brand new book that just came out. I think it came out about 2 months ago, and it talks about the technology fallacy. And the reason I was attracted to it, because the byline says how people are the real key to digital transformation. And so everyone talks about digital transformation. How do you wrap this notion of Agile into digital transformation? And people think about it as technology. And so to flip that and think about it as people, that's why I was drawn to it, because I'm a people person. And for me, the key to success is always going to be about people. Technology will aid us. It will help us be better as a human race. But at the end of the day, we're still people. And we're
Yes.
largely responsible for the forward progression of any kind of technology. So I would recommend the book. I'm just about done. It's a quick read,
Yeah.
but really great lessons in there.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing that. I'll definitely lay my hands on that book. Finally, what would be your parting message, if you will? It could be a superpower that you have been applying, to be where you are today, or it could be just a quote or a message. Most of those are gems that I've gathered from various people. If you ask them to summarize in one sentence, I get a gem. What's your gem, Nanci?
My gem has been letting go of fear. Um,
Wow.
Letting go of fear, really truly embracing courage
Yeah.
and having the courage and the conviction to continue down a path and say, why not? Why not? And so it took a while to
I'm
obviously
sure.
remove the
Yeah.
fear. But once you let go of the fear and you realize that everybody else around you is human just like you are, yes, they may have a different title, a different statue,
Right.
a different set of responsibilities. But at the end of the day, you're going to make some kind of connection and realize I have the courage to tell you the most uncomfortable truth.
Hmm.
You have the opportunity to accept, to believe that,
Yeah.
take action on it, or you can dismiss it. Whatever your choice is, it's your choice. But my choice is to be able to at least share that and have the courage to tell you things are not working. It may not be what you want to hear, but we can fix it.
Yeah.
So why not go forward and do it?
Letting go of fear and embrace courage. That is just phenomenal. Fantastic. Thank you so much, Nancy, for your willingness to share your journey, your stories, your perspectives with LIA100 and our viewers. I think somebody somewhere can resonate with everything you said. So this is great. Thank you so much for your time and your message to our community.
Thank you, Padmina. Thank you. It was a great experience. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you.